This isn't experimental, it's not preclinical, and it could help you to stay in remission starting today. There's an easy, inexpensive, and immediately accessible way to help reduce cancer metastasis and recurrence, and almost no one understands it correctly. Today, we're going to clear that up. Stick around because this is something you can actually use immediately. Hello, and welcome to Elevating Cancer Treatment, where we explain the science and debunk myths to help you navigate your health journey. My background is a little different. Beyond educating about cancer, I'm actually designing new drugs that are defining the future of oncology. This direct, hands-on experience offers me a very different perspective of how these cancer treatments work on the body, interact with the cancer cells, and cause side effects. And these are insights that I'm excited to share with you. If that sounds interesting, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And please share it if you find it useful. I'm Dr. Chaplin. An important reminder, I'm a PhD, not an MD. The information in this video is education, and it's not medical advice. Every cancer is unique, and no general information applies to everyone. Please remember that. Always consult with your healthcare provider for guidance on your specific situation. And two quick things. First, as a thank you for being here, I've created a free resource, 10 Things to Elevate Your Chemo Journey, which you can download from the link below. And second, by signing up, you'll also get updates on that innovative cancer treatment I'm working on. I'm confident it represents a significant advancement in immunotherapy. So please take a moment, download your free guide, and join us in shaping the future of cancer treatment. Recently, across social media, there's been a surge of discussion about a new study on low-dose aspirin, of all things, for cancer. The study itself was published back in March of 2025, this year, but as usual, the conversation on the internet around this has completely missed the mark. So one of the most frequent comments that I'm seeing is that this is research. This is preclinical, that it's just cell lines and animal models and not proven true or ready for real-world use. Those claims are absolutely false. Thousands of patients, hundreds of trials, a very clear survival benefit. So why are people not using this? What's being discussed now is something we've known about for over 40 years, and it's already been shown across tons of trials to help a significant number of people. It's really unfortunate that the clear clinical value isn't being communicated well, especially because it is such an easy and inexpensive intervention. So let's walk through this thoroughly, like I do with the people that I work with. Yes, the recent paper is a cell line and mouse study paper looking at how aspirin helps prevent cancer metastasis. But it is not claiming that aspirin helps prevent metastasis or recurrence for the first time. We've known that for a very long time. Multiple large clinical trials have already addressed this. In fact, it started there. In large meta-analyses grouping together data from anywhere between 10 clinical trials to 120 clinical trials that were originally done way back from 1983 to 2009. Those were published back in 2012, these meta-analyses. That's more than a decade ago. The conclusions from those analyses are very clear and very solid. That's where the aspirin claim comes from, not from the new paper. So what do they show? Here's what those clinical trial papers found. Taking low-dose aspirin, depending on the country you're in, that's 75 to 81 milligrams per day, which is just a baby aspirin, did not really change the overall likelihood of developing cancer. It wasn't really a preventative. But if someone already had cancer and was in treatment, the effects were absolutely striking. There was a significant reduction in metastasis, a significant reduction in recurrence of disease, and an overall reduction of about 20% in cancer-related deaths. Across the board, this is all cancers, not a specific one, all cancers. And there's variability in there, we'll get into that. But 20% reduction in deaths for all cancers is a big deal. It's a big deal for just a baby aspirin a day, 3 cents. It's roughly in line with the treatment response of 23.6% for the anti-CTLA-4 checkpoint inhibitor Pluvicto. So the question hasn't been whether aspirin works. We've known that for over 40 years. We've known it. It's been how aspirin works and why it works the way it does. Why does it have very little effect on large tumors or preventing tumors, but such an incredibly strong effect on small tumors and undiagnosable metastases? So, looking again at the clinical data, several important points stand out. Again, low-dose aspirin is completely sufficient. Slow-release formulations that help protect the stomach work just fine. There is no need for higher doses or immediate release forms. Nothing special. The first meta-analysis found that the metastases prevention effect was pretty restricted to adenocarcinomas, where there's a 46% reduction, and especially so in colorectal cancer, where aspirin reduced metastasis after the initial treatment. It reduced metastasis by 74%. 74%, 3/4. That's an enormous effect size. Overall, all other cancer types only had an 18% reduction in metastases. 18% is really good. The limitations for these studies, for this grouping out of the UK, are that they weren't for cancer, but they were actually for cardiovascular disease, and then those records were pulled later to evaluate for cancer diagnoses during that time. So cancer surveillance probably wasn't tip-top. It wasn't really what they were looking for, so may not have been the greatest. A second UK meta-analysis covered 118 observational trials of cancer, specifically for cancer. So spot on for the right data collection and covering 18 different types of cancer. This was across the board. While metastases were not specifically measured, there was an overall 21% reduction in mortality across all cancers with aspirin administration. So same ballpark as the previous one. Again, the best response was in colon cancer, but there was a broad impact of at least 10% reduction in mortality for each and every cancer assessed. 10% or more across the board. That's stunning. The final meta-analysis is from Canada, and again, it used cancer data from cardiovascular disease trials. So maybe not the greatest. They covered 11 trials with a total enrollment of over 16,000 people where cancer was specifically assessed, so cardiovascular disease, but they looked for cancer, and they found a very similar 23% reduction in mortality. So these are all grouping together. Now, mostly that's due to a reduction in metastases and relapse following primary treatment. For these large tumors or other cancer types, the benefit is much smaller or absent. And that was initially a head scratcher. Why was relapse prevented, but the large primary tumors weren't being affected? That's what the current paper addressed. So again, this is not controversial science. This is not something new. This is not something preclinical or unproven. It's very clear. We're talking about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of patients in multiple countries across many cancer types in over 140 separate clinical trials, all showing a clear and consistent anti-metastatic effect. Similar, though smaller, equivalent studies have been done in the USA, but the data isn't as robust because the patient numbers aren't nearly as high. We really should have a national data registry for trials. We don't. So that means a daily baby aspirin is something you can start today to reliably help reduce the risk of metastasis. This is not commonly mentioned by oncologists. Some do, some don't. But it's something we recommend to everyone we work with as they approach the end of their chemo. Why the end of their chemo? We'll talk about that at the end. So, what's actually new about this 2025 paper? For the very first time, it gives us a clear molecular mechanism that explains the behavior of aspirin with cancer. Previously, researchers looked at how aspirin affected cancer metabolism, how it affected the growth factors, how it affected the signaling within the tumor cells itself, how those pathways got disrupted inside the cancer cells, always focusing on the cancer cells themselves. Not the place to look. The results were mixed, often unclear, and they didn't really give a reason that could explain the mild effect on large tumors, but the robust one on microscopic metastases. Okay. This new paper finally connects the dots. And it's not about the cancer cells themselves. Here's what's happening. Aspirin blocks an enzyme needed to produce an inflammatory signaling molecule called thromboxane A2, or TXA2. And that is mainly produced by platelets. Platelets interfere with a lot of cancer treatments and support cancer growth. TXA2 suppresses your immune system, specifically your killer T cells. Aspirin prevents platelets from shutting down these killer T cells, thus leaving them active, functional, and ready to kill any cancer cells they recognize. That is great. However, killer T cells aren't particularly good at attacking large, established tumors. Big tumors are protected by a dense tumor microenvironment that blocks immune access. There are many different factors there that try and keep killer T cells out. There's some ways around that. There's a lot of research on it, but it's generally an issue. Now, killer T cells are excellent at eliminating small clusters of cancer cells, micrometastases, before they have time to establish themselves and build up their protective defenses against immune attack. If a cancer cell hasn't yet built its protective shell, T cells can easily find it and destroy it. That's where the metastasis preventing effect comes from. That's why aspirin works so well against small metastases and small tumors, but not well against large established ones, because it's not hitting the cancer, it's removing an inhibition of your immune system being able to attack these cells. This mechanism perfectly matches what we've seen with decades of clinical trial data. The new study doesn't overturn or add anything, it just explains it. So we can file this alongside the other rediscoveries of things that we already knew but are suddenly trendy again. This T-cell based explanation fits with other previous research as well. Back in 2014, a landmark study in colorectal cancer showed that aspirin only worked when tumors expressed HLA class I, which is required for T-cells to recognize cancer. If the tumor was HLA class I positive, it still had it, aspirin significantly improved outcomes and reduced metastases. If it was an HLA class I negative tumor, meaning T-cells couldn't see it, and this would be a great case for Anktiva, then aspirin had no effect. None. Again, everything lines up. The clinical trials, the patient outcomes, the molecular biology, and the immune mechanisms. Everything fits together perfectly. That's what this new paper puts into place. And that's why this body of evidence is so credible. This simple daily habit reduces cancer recurrence, and the science behind it is finally crystal clear. And this is something that you can do today cheaply and easily. Now, here's something else that many people don't realize, but again, we tell the people that we work with. Regular, moderate exercise, both aerobic and anaerobic, hits the exact same platelet pathway and reduces TXA2. So it also prevents platelets from suppressing immune function. And those effects of exercise stack with aspirin. I know, exercise during cancer treatment is hard. Fatigue can be overwhelming, but the data from multiple angles is very clear. Patients who exercise regularly during treatment see massive benefits in multiple areas, including immune function, and this is probably why. And when exercise is combined with daily baby aspirin, the immune benefits are even stronger. That's been shown as well. Now, there's a third option that doesn't get nearly enough attention. There's a natural flavonoid called apigenin. Apigenin is found in high concentrations in celery and parsley, and it's available as a supplement from many suppliers. Again, the caveat with suppliers, be very careful. Find one that does third-party testing. I'm not going to recommend any of them particularly, but please do your research. There's a lot of shady supplements. Okay, the main limitation for apigenin is absorption. It isn't very water soluble, so it needs to be taken with a fatty meal to be properly absorbed and do any work for you. But here's why it matters. Apigenin targets the exact same immune suppressive pathway as aspirin and exercise, the TXA2 pathway, but it comes at it from a completely different angle. Think of it like combination chemotherapy, where in that case, multiple different drugs hit the same target from different ways. That leads to better treatment outcomes, less resistance, better all the way around, often lower side effects. So aspirin blocks the enzyme that makes thromboxane A2. Apigenin blocks the receptor on T cells that senses TXA2. So even if some thromboxane gets produced by platelets, apigenin prevents other cells from responding to it, from seeing it, from doing anything about it, and it has a much easier time blocking a little bit of TXA2 when aspirin is stopping more from being made than when there's a normal, much larger amount. So this makes apigenin a powerful complementary option with very little downside. There are no major drug interactions or contraindications, and it also helps suppress small metastases. Great. Together, they are cheap. They are simple, and they can meaningfully support your immune system during cancer treatment and in maintenance or remission by helping eliminate small metastases before they grow, especially if you are also on an immunotherapy. This is another fantastic add-in. They all work together very well. Now, a few important caveats, because again, the details are critically important here. First, some people experience stomach irritation even with baby aspirin, though that's relatively uncommon. Bleeding rates are around 4 cases per 1,000 person years. So the longer you take baby aspirin, the bigger the risk can become. It might be good to take a treatment holiday every now and then. Others may be on blood thinners where aspirin isn't appropriate. If you can't take baby aspirin, exercise and apigenin still provide access to the same pathway and very similar benefits. Apigenin itself does have mild blood thinning effects, but they're much less significant than aspirin. If both of those, aspirin and apigenin, are an issue, they can be alternated daily to reduce the total dose of both of them and, consequently, the potential for their side effects. And, finally, if you can tolerate them, combining all three, aspirin, exercise, and apigenin, allows you to hit this pathway from multiple directions and maximize potential benefit. But this add-on is best during chemo holidays or after chemo completion. Radiation is okay, targeted therapies are okay. This is just like the sauna tip from the previous episode. If you want to stimulate immune responses, you want to do it when they won't get damaged by chemo. It's ideal to stimulate your immune response when you're not on chemo. So this is one of the simplest, most underutilized tools we have for reducing cancer metastasis and long-term mortality. And now you know exactly why and how it works. So for those of you who have been in treatment or helped a loved one, were you aware of this? Did your medical team fill you in on this clinically proven approach? We'd like to get a sense of what the actual recommendation and use profile is like. So please let us know down in the comments whether your doctors did or didn't recommend aspirin. Thank you. We'll see you in the next episode. Beyond these videos, if you need more personalized guidance or a deeper dive into specific treatments to have your treatment be as effective as possible, I offer one-on-one sessions and medical advocacy. I'm also in the process of developing an exclusive video series that breaks down each cancer treatment and drug in detail, along with interferences to avoid and ways to optimize for the ideal results. You can find information on both of these resources on our website, which is linked down below. Again, if you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, click the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel for more science-based cancer insights.